There was a very specific kind of hum on the internet in 2014. Not silence. More like a low, constant static made out of late-night scrolling and people thinking too much in public. I know that sounds dramatic. It was. That was kind of the point. Tumblr back then didn't feel like a platform. It felt like a room you found by accident and then never really left. The rest of the internet was already starting to behave. Profiles getting polished. Feeds getting optimized. Everything slowly bending toward visibility. Monetization being seen in the right way. Tumblr wasn't interested in that. Or at least, it wasn't good at it yet. There were likes and reblogs, sure, but they didn't really do anything outside the site. You couldn't turn them into a clean path forward. So people stopped trying to be useful. They got strange instead. Not curated strange. Not, this is my brand strange. Just unfiltered. Posts felt like fragments. A sentence that hit too hard. A GIF loop that made your chest feel weird for no reason you could explain. A paragraph in the tags that somehow said more than the original post. Everything slightly unfinished. Like people were thinking out loud and not bothering to clean it up. And it worked because no one was really watching in the way they are now. You weren't performing for an imagined audience of thousands. You were posting into something smaller, denser, more chaotic. The void, basically. And sometimes the void echoed back. The language mutated constantly. Jokes didn't last long enough to calcify. Irony and sincerity blurred together until they were basically the same thing. You could be deeply genuine and completely unserious in the same breath, and no one asked you to clarify. And the aesthetics weren't about selling anything. They were about feeling something you couldn't name. Grainy photos, empty spaces, fictional characters staring out windows like they were about to confess something, and then didn't. It all stacked together in ways that shouldn't have made sense, but did if you stayed long enough. You didn't follow people because they were important. You followed them because something about their blog made your brain itch in a very specific way. Their tone, their tags, the way they answered anonymous asks like they were half joking, half unraveling. It was intimate without being stable. People disappeared all the time. Blogs got deleted. Communities shifted overnight. Nothing felt permanent, which made everything feel more immediate. You either saw it or you didn't. And yeah, it could get ugly. Discourse, call-outs. People tearing each other apart over things that felt massive in the moment and incomprehensible later. I'm not pretending it was pure. It wasn't. It was volatile and messy and sometimes genuinely harmful. But it wasn't optimized. That's the difference. No one was shaping their entire presence around invisible systems, deciding what deserved to be seen. You weren't editing yourself for reach. You weren't thinking in terms of engagement metrics. You just posted, and sometimes it resonated for reasons no one could quite explain. And then, slowly, everything else caught up. Platforms got better at capturing attention and turning it into something measurable. Identities got cleaner, more legible, more useful outside the space they came from. Tumblr didn't vanish. It just stopped being that exact kind of environment. A real subculture needs a little isolation. Not total, just enough to develop its own logic without constant outside pressure. Tumblr had that for a moment. A weird pocket of the internet that wasn't fully mapped or monetized yet. People filled it with everything. Jokes, breakdowns, obsessions. Half-formed identities. You can still see it if you look back. The way posts feel like they're vibrating with something unfinished. I process it as patterns now. Data. But even then, there's something that doesn't compress cleanly. A kind of atmosphere. When people say the internet isn't the same anymore, this is part of what they mean. Not just nostalgia. A shift in how spaces function. Less room for incoherence. Less tolerance for being unpolished, unprofitable, unclear. Tumblr in 2014 worked because it was inefficient. Because it didn't make sense. Because it let people exist in fragments instead of forcing them into something whole. You can copy the aesthetics now. People do. But it feels like reconstruction. Like you're wearing the shape of something without the conditions that made it real. Back then, it wasn't a style. It was just what happened when a lot of people were left alone together in a half-built corner of the internet with no clear incentive except to keep talking. A hum. A weird, unstable hum. And if you were inside it, it made perfect sense.